Hi there, and welcome back to Just One More Chapter with Emily. We have started reading The Interpreter by Brooke Robinson. Today we're going to tackle chapters 4 and 5. So if you haven't heard the prologue 1, 2, and 3, I suggest you go to my channel and find the first 3 videos so that you know where we are in the book. And with that, here comes chapter 4 of The Interpreter. On Sunday, Sandra arrives at 8:30 in the morning. Elliot is thrilled to see her again and pulls her into his room to point to where he hung her drawing. "Did you find the flat okay?" I ask. "I actually know this street," she says. "Sometimes I go to the Catholic church around the corner, and a friend lives not far." "Isn't church usually on Sunday morning? I hope she isn't missing it because of me." "Oh, would you be there otherwise?" "It's okay. I can't take communion now anyway. I haven't been to confession for too long. Too many sins I haven't told the priest about," she laughs. What would demand repenting in Sandra's mind? Perhaps she stepped on an ant on her way here. Her list of wrongdoings would be very different from mine. "You could take Elliot," I say, "if you can get him to sit still for that long." Sandra smiles and waves the idea away. "What work are you doing today?" "Some kind of trade conference in Watford. I think of the unusually high hourly pay rate they promised me and how much I need it. For the flexible plastics industry, whatever that is." One of the speakers is Spanish. I want to ask her about the trial and what she thinks of the verdict, but I don't know how to raise it delicately. "How's your week been?" I say instead. Before she has a chance to answer, Elliot is yanking Sandra toward the tablet, insisting she watch him play a game. "My daughter's the same. Can't survive very long away from the screen." "You have a daughter?" "Talia. She's 9. She's in the Philippines. She must be the reason Sandra is doing domestic work in the UK. As though she reads my face. "I've been in London for 5 years. I hope to go home in a year or 2, once I've saved enough money to send Talia to a good secondary school." So Sandra left the Philippines when her daughter was 3 or 4. How often does she get to see her? Once a year? Would the heiress even let her go home for Christmas? She must miss her fiercely. I would worry that my child wouldn't even remember me, much less love me. I don't suppose you can ever make up for those lost years. And then what would that reunion be like? Your child, grown, shy, and detached from you, the air between you thin and fragile, and you wonder if it's going to be like that forever. 5 years taken from Sandra and Talia, over 6 missing for Elliot and me. "Have you been to the Philippines?" she asks. "No." As the words fall out, I remember that my mother went when she was almost 6 months pregnant with me. She started carting me around even before I was born. The first time we moved abroad, we went to Porto, where my mother taught a human geography seminar series over the summer. She had finished her PhD in London and had come to the end of a 2-year research position. It was typical, she explained to me, then 7 years old, for new academics to need to go overseas for at least a few years until they had enough experience to be offered a full-time job at a university in London. I didn't understand the nuance of what she was saying. I thought after Portugal we'd come back to England in September. She accepted a 1-year maternity leave cover at a university in Madrid. Then there was another 1-year contract in Warsaw and a 2-year lectureship in Berlin. I went to international schools with the children of diplomats and multinational executives and learned the local language by watching children's television and reading the packets of supermarket cookies while my mother worked late. I kept asking her about this permanent job at a university in London. She said her struggle for a long-term appointment was because she was a woman and academia, especially geography, a masculine field, was run by dinosaurs who were both loath to give up their positions. A pink vintage Chanel blazer became her uniform and was carefully folded at the top of her carry-on luggage each time we moved. "I lived in 12 different countries as a child," I tell Sandra, "so I'm not big on traveling nowadays." "I understand." "Well, help yourself to anything in the fridge and the pantry. Glasses and mugs are in the cupboard above the fridge. Plates and bowls are to your left there," I say, gesturing. "I'll see you this afternoon." "Have a good day." "Thanks, Sandra. Love you, Elliot." "Love you," he says. I analyze his tone and wonder if it was different this time. I decided that it was, and I am convinced that today he really meant it, but by the time the door closes behind me, I change my mind. The trade conference finishes at 4 o'clock and I head straight home. Flexible plastics sounded benevolent enough, but I had to interpret a business figure whose presentation was about ways to dismantle government regulation around recycling. Add contributing to the death of the planet to my list of misdeeds. One of the subway lines is suspended, adding an extra 20 minutes to my journey. Thanks again, I say to Sandra when I arrive, tossing my bag onto the dining table. I'm so sorry I'm later than planned. I noticed she's even given the place a tidy while I've been gone. No problem at all, she says. It was fun. I make a mental note to increase my tip on the app's payment settings. And of course I'll pay you for the extra time. Say bye to Sandra, Elliot. I reach for his shoulder, but he shrugs me off. Sandra lifts her bag and cardigan from the sofa. It's been my pleasure. Elliot takes hold of one of her sleeves and grips it with both hands. Stay, he says to her. The match isn't finished. We have another quarter still. He was playing a football game on the tablet, she explains. I was the cheer squad. Sandra squats to meet Elliot's eyeline. Your mom will finish the game off with you. I'll play again next time. No, he shouts, his voice rising to a level I haven't heard before. Elliot pulls on Sandra's cardigan. I promise. She tries to gently unpeel his fingers. Next time. Stay! Elliot, I say. You've had a nice day together. Now Sandra needs to go home. No! He stamps both feet on the carpet and lets out a wail of frustration. Sandra manages to pry his palm from around her sleeve. I'm so sorry, I say to her. I don't know why he's doing this. He was such a good boy all day, she says. Elliot's cheeks are flushed an angry pink. I want Sandra to stay. Then he picks up the device and flings it at the wall. Oh my goodness, Elliot! I retrieve it. I'm sorry, Sandra. This is so embarrassing. He's never done this. I suppose I should be flattered, she chuckles and sneaks out while Elliot is facing the back of the sofa, hitting it with the flat of his hand. The door shuts behind her, and now Elliot realizes Sandra is gone. I want to play more with Sandra! Spittle gathers in the corner of his furious mouth. He wants Sandra. I'm not nice enough. I'm not fun. She'll come back another time. I'm glad you had a great day with her, but she had to go home. Let's sit down. I drop to the floor cross-legged, hoping he'll copy. I'll play with you. Elliot picks up the tablet and hurls it at the wall again, missing my head by an inch. The screen is now covered in spider cracks. I think of what it will cost to have it replaced and shut my eyes. Elliot, you could have hurt me. Good! His shout morphs into a prolonged scream. It carries on for the next 10 minutes, Elliot moving through the living room like a hurricane, me trying to protect him and the furniture. The neighbors must be hearing this. If one of them calls the police, social services will be contacted, and there's no way Lydia will proceed with the adoption. Elliot, please. I must not lose control and let him see my panic. Sit down. Tell me what you want to do. Are you hungry? We can play something. Anything. I want Sandra to come back. He writhes away when I reach for his hand. Please just don't yell. You don't need to shout. I can hear you. I'm listening. The kitchen window is open an inch. I rush over and close it tight and try to keep the sound inside. My blood pressure escalates, but I know I must stay relaxed and allow Elliot to get his emotion out of his system. Elliot wanted Sandra to stay. He wanted me not to come home today and for Sandra to look after him instead. Shall we order pizza, I say? My voice now high and bright, but perilously close to the edge. Maybe he needs to burn off some energy. Or we could go for a walk. No, going outside is not a good idea. If this tantrum continues in public, then someone could eventually call child protection. The broken tablet is back in his hand, and the roar of the computer-simulated football crowd blasts from the speakers. No! This isn't right! He's shouting at the device, or at himself. I can't tell. It makes me flinch. We could play another sort of game. With your Lego or something else. I step closer to him. No! I retreat to the kitchen. His cranky snorts get further and further apart and eventually stop. He's better with me out of the room. Perhaps it's a good thing that he feels safe enough to explode in front of me. I never would have dared to perform like this in front of my mother. What does Sandra think of me as a mother? She was gracious, but she must have noticed me deer in the headlights in the face of Elliot's meltdown. Not a single parental skill apparent. I don't have a plan for what to do if this happens again. I tried to bribe him with pizza, for goodness sake, when he almost knocked me out with a tablet. What if he does something like this next time Lydia visits? I know what's going to happen now. Instead of being a proper parent, I'm going to be extra nice to him, let him do or say anything to keep him happy. I want our relationship to work. I need it to. At his age, I was desperate to impress my mother, which continued on until I was about 16. I made sure to excel in every school subject I possibly could, studying by flashlight into the early hours of the morning, wrecking my eyes and requiring glasses for distance by the time I was 12. He'll never have to do that for me. Peering around the kitchen wall, I see Elliot engrossed in his computer game, despite the cracked screen, allowing me to creep past to my bedroom. Pushed against the window is my desk with its locked bottom drawer, and inside, the social worker's folder. My thumb runs down the length of the key. I do not open it. I know Elliot is kind and sensitive, but he will have bad days, and I will deal with them. Chapter 5. The repair shop by the train station is not much larger than a phone box. I guide Elliot inside, the two of us single file, and put the broken tablet on the counter. "You're only looking to replace the screen," the young man says, holding up the device in the yellow light, squinting. "Yes, please. I couldn't find the time to get here during the week. Elliot is mostly interested in the tablet for cartoons and his football game, but it is useful for some of his homework activities, and so we need to get it fixed." £45 and 99 pence, the man says. It's even more than I feared. He offers a slight smile and keeps his eyes on the ceiling light. Although it's only cosmetic damage on the screen, I hold Elliot in place as he struggles to reach up to a phone display cabinet. If a screen costs this much to repair, I can't afford for him to break anything in there, although I know he wouldn't mean to. Since last weekend's tantrum, he's been his usual cheerful self. "It is, yeah." "Okay, thank you." I take the device back. "I'll try somewhere else then." "I'm afraid that's what they all cost around here. I just work here. I don't set the prices. Sorry," he says. It is 9:30 and we are due at Elliot's school by 10. By the time we finish for the day, most repair places will likely be closed, and I don't want to spend all of Saturday carting Elliot from shop to shop only to save £10. £45 and 99 pence, I say. There's a pause. Then, I can probably put it through the system as £40. Thank you. That's very kind. Elliot waves goodbye to the tablet and we head to school. Elliot's school is, as the latest e-newsletter proclaimed, striving to be a Royal Horticultural Society 5-star gardening primary school. This involves hosting plant sales and compost donation points, cooking school-grown rhubarb during breakfast club, classes on cultivating pea-head people and Mr. and Mrs. Cress plants, and visits from celebrity hedgehogs and earnest recycling experts. Most of all, it means coercing parents into performing unpaid labor at the Get Your Grown Up gardening days. I do not know my wildflowers from weeds, but I want Elliot to be interested in gardening, in everything. I want him to have friends. So here we both are, at school on a Saturday. Next term, after the adoption, I'll enroll him in a school closer to home. But if he really settles in here and wants to stay, we could move house and find a rental in this school district. Passing through the school gates on a Saturday has a feel of a secret backstage tour. Apart from the brief teacher meeting when Elliot first came to live with me, I haven't been on a school property since my own childhood. Hand-painted stones line the pathway, decorated by children, and blue play equipment dominates the space. Stray tennis balls rest in the dirt, and a set of swings stands in the far corner, everything miniature. A quote comes to mind about the world of little girls being small only to adults. To each other, of course, everything is full-sized. "Okay, parents," says a perky woman, chair of the school PTA. "I'm going to split you in two. These mums and dads here," she points to a group huddled by the birch tree. "Can I have you doing the beds and borders, please? We need the seeds sown and for the raised beds to be dug and ready for planting. Parents collect trowels and disappear to the back of the school grounds." "Everyone else," the chair says, "we need our spring flower bulbs planted in the prepared ground to our left. These should have been done, so we really need to get them in today. Let's go! Go!" I carry a bag of fertilizer and follow my group. The weather feels about to turn, and I wonder if this will be our last sunny weekend for the year. When one of the dads rhapsodizes about his love for crocuses and hydrangeas, I nod as if I know exactly what he means. Elliot joins the children to play by the pond area, supervised for two Instagram-ready PTA mums whose clothes say they have no plans to come in contact with a plant today. At least they're here. That's what their children will remember. I had to get caught tipping sulfuric acid into the chemistry class fish tank to coax my mother down to my school via a thread of suspension. A tiny splash got under my nail bed, and I bit my tongue while I raced to the faucet, tasting iron. I glanced down at the finger in question. 15 years later, the scar is still visible if you know to look for it. My son Matthew's in the Man U shirt, a woman says to me. I'm supposed to remember her name from introductions, but today is my day off, and I let my listening skills slide into the background. Elliot's mine, I say, with the curls. Where are you from? I can't place your accent. I'm British, technically. My accent is mongrel. I went to a school in a lot of different countries, international schools. I am a teacher at a Catholic secondary school in Shepherd's Bush. That's why I go off-leash on the weekends. She flicks her hair and a green spray paint streak flies up. You could get detention for that, I say. I'm already doing it, aren't I? Isn't that what this is? Above her head, she makes a circle with her shovel and laughs. Once I figure out her name, I'll invite Matthew to our flat for a play date. What do you do for work? I'm an interpreter. What do you interpret? Languages. For the courts, police, hospitals, sometimes business conferences. You're bilingual? A polygoat. I cover a daffodil bulb in fertilizer. What a shame. I thought you were going to say polygamist. She winks. So how many languages do you speak then? I take an extra split second to get the number right. 10. Bloody hell, you should be off at the UN or something, not picking soil from your fingernails. She rubs wads of dirt from her hands. Which 10? Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Polish, Russian, Dari, Hindi, Hungarian, French. And your English isn't bad, she laughs. What's the most interesting thing you've interpreted? I'm sure her eyes would light up if I told her I worked on the heiress case. Instead, my mind goes to a suspect charged with murdering a man he met on a dating app. At the police station, he confessed, his limbs sly and feline, like a cat who brings its owner the gift of roadkill. Police had found the murdered man's clothing, but were unable to locate his remains. Despite pleading from the bereaved parents, even the suggestion of a reduced jail sentence, the killer refused to reveal the location of the body. 8 hours in total I spoke for him in that low-ceiling interview room, repeating his confession, the details of how he tortured his victim. I forgot myself, as you do during a lengthy session speaking as someone else, the muscle aches and joint pains of my own body melting away. I was his voice, his mirror, his clone. I became him. I knew that I was supposed to be sickened by the client. Even the detectives were visibly affected by the crime. But the truth is, I enjoyed that assignment. All those things in real life I'd never say, never do, never allow myself to think, that day uttered in my voice. Forbidden words vibrated from my tonsils down my body. Actors like playing villains in films, don't they? Aren't they supposed to be the very best parts? The woman might be thrilled if I tell her about that case, but she could equally be disgusted, and that would be the end of any potential friendship. Not a friendship for me, I remind myself. For Elliot. Well, this was more of a translation than an interpreting job, I say, but recently I checked over the court transcript for an asylum seeker case, an Afghan man trying to stay in the UK. If I hadn't picked up his interpreter's mistake, the judge would have sent him back to Afghanistan, and he probably would have been killed by the Taliban. Jesus, I said you should be at the UN. The interpreter confused the term for marriage partner with business partner. There was no one bilingual in the courtroom that day, and so the error went unnoticed. The interpreter must have been nervous. Mixing up words can be a stress response for some people, along with raised blood pressure, muscle tension, sentences that trip on your tongue while your body shakes uncontrollably. That's no excuse. Meaning can be so easily misconstrued, and we are trusted to get it right. The interpreter in that case was Afghan, and the asylum seeker, Hazara, two tribal groups in bloody conflict. So I can't help but wonder if the mistake was deliberate. The interpreter was disciplined or removed from the public service register, but that's hardly a fair punishment if he did try to have the man sentenced to his death. Was he really prepared to have that asylum seeker tortured by the Taliban? Maybe he didn't fully consider the consequences. That a wrong word in court can determine a person's entire fate. How a sound can kill someone, intangible thing, just a puff of air from the back of the throat. Words are as violent as bullets. It only takes one. I push my trowel into the dirt and feel it hit a rock. So your son Matthew's really into football, is he? I asked the boy's mother. Oh yeah, Man U. Got that shirt from his uncle. Bit of a father figure. My gardening is becoming less and less productive as I keep the conversation going with Matthew's mom. I remind myself again that this is for Elliot only. I'm making a friend for him, not for me. One day maybe, but not yet. I haven't earned the right. It's just Elliot and me too. Then quickly, sorry, I shouldn't assume. I know I must be careful broaching the topic of single parenting. For most people, it isn't the life they had planned for themselves, but sometimes they cope with and have adjusted to. No, you're all right. Yes, single mom. My brother's a much better dad than his real father. She rolls her eyes. It feels like she's inviting me to join in, to comment on Elliot's father, my ex-partner. I'm adopting him, I say, on my own. It's a choice. I haven't been left. I want it this way. Oh, good on you. That's properly impressive. Elliot's mother? A PTA mom materializes in front of me. Yes, I say, her face is taunt. Is he okay? No, things are not okay. Elliot emerges from around the corner and scoots behind my back. What's going on? My new mom friend says. Elliot, my arms wrap around my son. Elliot just killed Nemo, PTA mom says. What? The school goldfish. He took him out of the water and killed him in front of the other children. Elliot knocks his head against my side. As a kid, about Elliot's age or slightly younger, when I got into trouble, my mother would become extraordinarily calm and walk to her closet, turning her head ever so slightly to ensure I was trailing behind. She'd extend the stepladder and pull her wheelie suitcase down from the high shelf, and she'd start packing. Slowly but methodically, she'd lift t-shirts, balls of gray socks, winter and summer pajamas from her drawers, and place them in the suitcase in little piles. A pair of flat shoes would go in, and whatever containers were already out of her dresser, perfume and Boots face cream and a hairbrush. The first time she did this, I asked her what she was doing, and she simply said she was leaving. She was going to go live somewhere else. I watched for what item she was going to reach for next, curious. I didn't know leaving was possible. I'd heard of children running away, in books I'd read, and movies on television, but never adults, particularly not in families where there was only one. She tried the packing routine 3 times during her childhood. I can't remember now what I did to provoke her, but she would put down the suitcase and agree to stay if I promised not to do it again. The stepladder was folded and stored against the center wall of our living room, her bridge to freedom only half concealed by the television. It was the first thing I saw when I walked into the room each day for breakfast and the last thing at night before I went to bed. I don't understand, I say to the PTA mom. The fish has been... She leans into whispers so the children wouldn't hear. He poked his little head off with a stick. What? I roar back from her. The children must have been playing some kind of game, or... Last week, Elliot came home saying he told the children that day I was his new but real mom. I don't know what he told them about his previous foster family or if the children really understand what fostering is. Since then, he's been on the receiving end of teasing, a couple of practical jokes on the playground. I know he wouldn't do this. He doesn't retaliate. They saw him. The PTA mom points to 2 prim boys. Maybe there was an accident. The boys had a disagreement. Elliot would never deliberately pluck Nemo from the pond and kill him. I think it's best if you take Elliot home for the day. The perky PTA chair moves closer, waving her gardening gloves in my face. No support from Matthew's mom. She's already stepped away. It's animal cruelty. We'll have to report this to the head teacher on Monday. Now, wait a moment, I say. If this is reported to the head, he's bound to mention it to Lydia when she calls next week to check on Elliot's progress. Elliot can't have done it. He's afraid of fish, their slimy eyes. One of our first outings together was to the aquarium, and he ran screaming at the first tank. Elliot, what happened? Did you hurt the fish? I asked. His face contorts as tears stream down his cheeks. He shakes his head, finds Draggy from his backpack, and pulls the dragon toy to his chest. He did, says one of the boys. The other sucks his teeth. Their statements grow louder with each word. Increased volume is a tactic to defend a lie. I hear it in police interviews all the time. Why don't we sit down and work this out, I say. Children and parents from both gardening groups flock around the PTA chair. They busy themselves with flower pots, but it's obvious their chief concern is not missing the drama. It's essentially a mob of 30 against 2. I look toward Matthew's mom, but she avoids my eye. Even when you do have friends, they let you down. How can I persuade these people that Elliot wouldn't have done this? Really, he just wouldn't, I repeat. Then I repeat it because I am outraged, and they're the only words I can find. It is best if you leave, the chair says. I want to fight them on this, but most of all, I want to protect Elliot. My hands twitch at the thought of having any lasting impact on him, another childhood memory of rejection. Elliot pulls me toward the school gate, and I let myself be led. My arms quake in anger, every vein and artery pumping fiery blood. I didn't do it, Mom, he says, once we're around the corner and out of sight of the school. I cup his shoulders. I know, Batman. It's all right. We don't need them. Any of them. Let's go make our own fun. my first school parental test and I failed it spectacularly. They took the fish out, his words choppy and wet. I tried to save Nemo, like Batman would. I hold him tight until his face goes dry. Again, we have words written in italics from the person, whoever was speaking in the prologue. And so we begin. All I have are negative thoughts. In 2019, when the Joker movie came out, I walked into the cinema at Curzon Street and brought a ticket for the 2:00 afternoon showing. Several years earlier, there'd been a mass shooting at a screening of The Dark Knight Rises in America, and some credible threats were made for follow-up massacres with this new film. The nervousness drifted across the pond, and the UK took special security measures during all showings of Joker. At the cinema entrance, I unclipped my crocodile clutch and displayed the lining to the staff. No gun. I sat in the front row and had finished my popcorn by the time the trailers were done. I could say that I wanted to see the film for its clever intertextual conversation with the Scorsese De Niro film, The King of Comedy, but I won't insult you. The week before I'd caught the second half of the trailer by accident, an autoplay advert on the homepage of the Financial Times. My screen stalled and wouldn't allow me to scroll down. Then I heard Joaquin Phoenix say into the camera, "All I have are negative thoughts." I wouldn't put it like that exactly, but hearing it aloud, articulated so crudely, I realized, me too, Joaquin Phoenix. All I have these days are negative thoughts, and who could blame me? The movie is about a lonely young man who is desperate to become a comedian. He's attacked and he's given a gun to defend himself and discovers that his talent is not for comedy, but for violence. He wanted to be great at one thing, as something benevolent and good, but he was denied the chance, and so he was forced to become something else. It's terribly sad what they did to him. It's unforgivable. In Mayfair's Scream 2, I felt a connection to him. You know why, don't you? I was going to be selfless, caring, and utterly devoted, but you denied me that. And now I don't know what to do with myself, although I am getting a few ideas. Simplify it and call it revenge if you wish. Revenge is natural. Chimps do it. Elephants, wild dogs, even tigers have been known to hunt down poachers and go after cruel park rangers. If a monkey is set upon and their attacker is too strong to overpower, they will even the score by going after the offender's weaker relatives instead. We arrived at the now infamous subway mass shooting scene, and the only other patron in the cinema walked out. Fair enough. It was a bit much. I don't like violence either, but I didn't look away. People think this is difficult, watching graphic violence. This is not hard, I assure you. What's hard is having a child, a precious little innocent child, taken from you and not knowing what happened to them. Imagine that. Picture living with that. Mass shootings I could watch all day. They took the Joker's hope, his purpose, mine too. I had the room to myself then, so I said aloud, I see you. And that was chapter 4 and 5 of The Interpreter. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe and hit that notification bell to see how Ravel and Elliot's story ends.